Hello everyone, Skyknighter here, and today I shall be talking about the River City series, or I guess this is mainly called the Kunio-Kun franchise. This series has some very interesting games that are very odd, but it's mainly a beat 'em up series that's branched out into stuff like hockey, soccer, and dodgeball. There are a total of 70 games currently in the Kunio-Kun franchise. 12 of these games are based around dodgeball, which is rather interesting since I never really expected the beat 'em up series to ever have these kinds of games. Or rather, I never expected the series to have a total of 70 games, not counting the fan-made, unknown licensed ones, or cancelled ones. Now, Rivercitygirls is a spin-off series, but this does mean the Kunio-Kun franchise is the biggest series I have covered in this channel so far. Although now I should begin into the main topic of this video today, of the series, history, and review of Rivercitygirls 2. If you're only interested in the review, then you can skip ahead of the timestamp below in the description. However, before I talk about the history of the series, I must go over two things. One, my pronunciation is absolutely terrible, so I may mispronounce names of people, places, locations, etc. wrong. Two, despite there being a total of 70 games, I am not going to cover them all. This is due to the fact that we'd be here for an eternity. I'll only be talking about games that are worth mentioning, while the sports-based games will be ignored completely due to the fact that they either aren't worth talking about. Also, some of the games I have found have little to no info either, so another batch of games will be left out. There will be one sports game that will be talked about for a good reason, and a few others will be mentioned as well. Like, will anyone complain if I skip over talking about Downtown Smash Dodgeball, or River City Dodgeball All-Stars, or the soccer game, or the hockey game that had a canned English release? I shall be covering the games that I feel that are worth talking about, and any other media that is interesting. If you like what you saw, then please consider giving the video a like, so that it can reach to other people, and subscribing for more future content like this. I also have a link down below for my Twitter, or I guess X as it's called now, so you can have updates on my future projects or other stuff that I post on there. With that all out of the way, let's start with the history lesson. Now, WayForward Studios own the Kunio-Kun license. However, the first major title was made by Technos Japan. The series is being handled by arcsystemworks now, who purchased the license from them. This means there isn't going to be an introduction to any video game company, as the series has been developed by multiple different companies. Although we would have to start with the first game in the series. Neketsu Kowa Kunio-Kun, or as it's roughly translated into the West, Hot-Blooded Tough Guys, or as the official title we got, which was Renegade, released in 1986 for the arcades. It was developed by Yoshisawa Kishimoto, who inspired the game on his own teenage years of high school years getting into fights on the daily basis. The main character Kunio was partially based on himself, but also took inspiration from Bruce Lee's martial arts film, Enter the Dragon. Now, Renegade was an important game as it established the standard for the beat-em-up genre as a whole. It made the basis for Kishimoto's next game, Double Dragon. There was a remake of the first game on the 3DS that came out on December 15th, 2011, celebrating the 25th anniversary of the series. I think this game is Japan exclusive, as there are no listed for any English release versions of the game. It did come out in South Korea a year later on September 14th, however. Now I can talk about one of the sports games, that being the Ketsu High School Dodgeball Club. I am bringing this up because it's the first dodgeball video game in the Kunio-Kun series, and it's the very first dodgeball-based video game. Although according to what I read, this game came out in the arcades in 1987. However, there was another dodgeball game called Super Dodgeball, which came out in 1989, but that was a port of the Kunio-Kun game. The game was ported across multiple different platforms and received an enhanced port for the PC titled Neketsu Koko Dodgeball Boo PC Bingen Hen. Also, apparently the next sports game is called Neketsu High School Dodgeball Club Soccer Story. I have no idea why it's called Dodgeball when it's a soccer game. The next game in the series is Downtown Neketsu Story and came out in 1989. However, the PAL version of the game was titled Street Games. Later down the line, the game was published in North America by American Technos Inc. and was retitled to Rivercity Ransom in 1990. This is also the first game where Ricky appeared and was a mainstay in the franchise as a whole. Besides the Japanese box art, I guess they wanted to make the game more appealing to American audiences, as anime was really niche back then. There was an enhanced port of the Game Boy Advance called Downtown Neketsu Monogatari EX, and early Japanese orders included a Kunio strap. The game came with a few improvements like having an AI partner to help the player out, an option to change the amount of enemies on the map, shopper shuffling, and there's no longer passwords to save characters. This time you use batteries and can have a total of 12 characters saved. The Ketsukawa Kunio-Kun Mega Renso Hen, and this is the first Kunio-Kun game to release for the Game Boy. The game was released in the Western markets by Acclaim as Double Dragon 2. Techno did plan to publish the game themselves, and it was supposed to be called the Renegades, but I think some last minute decisions changed. It did become available on the Nintendo Virtual Console and Nintendo 3DS on August 8th, 2012 in Japan. The game also started as a Renegade title until Kushi Ogata brought the character Kunio in. Next we have an interesting game, that being Downtown Special Kunio-Kun's Historical Period Drama. This is an action role-playing beat-em-up for the family computer, or Famicom as we all know it, released on July 26, 1991 in Japan. It's a follow-up to Downtown Nekketsu Monogatari. This game is easy to play, and the characters can act out in a period of day. Think of it as an open-world type of game. The game was supposed to include a 4-player mode. 2 players controlled one of the playable characters, while the other 2 controlled the enemies and bosses. However, this feature was never completed and was cut from the final game, although it's actually still accessible with hidden commands. There was a port for the Game Boy in 1993 on December 23rd that also released at the same time as Nekketsu Basket Gunbear Dunk Heroes. Then we have Shoyo Nekketsu Koyo Kunio-Kun, which came out on August 7th, 1992, and is the first Kunio-Kun game for the console. This game dealt with 2 rival factions, while Kunio-Kun and the Nekketsu high school students are on a field trip because apparently no one can have a break these days. However, characters are actually proportioned, just like how the first game was, instead of the chibi art style the Downtown Nekketsu Monogatari made. The next game I bring up is actually a fighting game called Nekketsu Fighting Legend, which came out on December 23rd, 1992. Its English name is sometimes referred to as Riki Kunio, but that's the unofficial one. Since the title of the game is vague, it could refer to any number of Kunio-Kun games. Most people in the West call it by its Japanese name, but another title the game got was Legend of the Burning Fighters, which is actually a nice name. The next game that some people may remember actually is Shin Nekketsu Kawa Kunio Tachi no Banka, or as the translated title, the new hot-blooded tough guy, the elegy of Kunio and CO. Is a beat 'em up for the Super Famicom and released in Japan only in 1994 and was developed by Alman. This one actually takes place when Kunio-Kun is in his final months of his sophomore year and is becoming a senior. On February 14th, 2022, WayForward released an updated localization port of the game called Rivercitygirls 0, which is available on Steam. The final Kunio-Kun game on console is a puzzle game called Kunio no Oden. The characters enter Oden, which is a traditional Japanese dish. The game is played very similar to Tetris, but instead of blocks, it was Odin-based ingredients. Since then, the Kunio-Kun series has never really had a major release for years outside of a few sports games, but there was also a kart racer release on March 14th of 1995. It does not have the Kunio-Kun name in it, and doesn't seem to reference any of the characters or even Kunio-Kun himself. I have no idea why this game is there, but it's a spin-off apparently. So it may have some relations that I just don't know about, but not a lot of info is on it. It is a combat racing game, and the game was supposed to be published under a different title by Technos Japan, where the company Revo got it. Other than the sports games, the Kunio-Kun games mainly got a few remakes, some mobile games that nobody cares about, and they have very little info on them. Then we finally get onto the main Kunio-Kun game that came out on 3DS, that being Rivercity Tokyo Rumble. This game should be taken more serious, because the guy right there has a gun, so you know shit is getting real here. This game came out in Japan on August 8th, 2013, and the localized versions came out on September 27th, 2016. And Europe got the game 3 years later in 2019, September 29th. It's the 5th mainline game in the Kunio-Kun series. There was also supposed to be a feature for Riki Tenetsu to be connected to the game, but apparently it's Japan exclusive, so this feature was taken out in the Western release of the game, so players cannot get the rewards for it. Also, Riki Tenetsu is a remake of the first game, that's why I won't be talking about it. River City Tokyo Rumble used the established name of the Kunikun franchise while using the River City brand. The graphics in the game, though, have not changed. There is also River City Knights of Justice, which plays very similar to the Kunio-Kun games, but takes place in medieval times. Not a lot of info is on this game, but it was released for the Nintendo 3DS. There was also River City 3 Kingdoms, and I think it played the same, but there is also not a lot of info on the game either. The next game we have is Downtown Nekketsu Jidakaiki, as a sequel to Downtown Special Kunio-Kun no Jidakaiki Do Yo Zen'i Shigi. Not all info is on this one, but it was released for the 3DS. Then we have Stay Cool Kabayashi-san, a River City Ransom story, which is a spin-off game of the Kunio-Kun series. You'll play as Kobayashi Masayo, who is one of the bosses in the first game as the main character. One of the final games I should mention, and it's definitely something of a special case, is River City Ransom Underground. In Japan, this game's plot is completely unrelated to Downtown Nekketsu Monogatari or any of the sequels. So my assumption is the game is completely non-canon, even to the English release of the game. Also, despite the game having a unique art style on the box art, it's actually a 16-bit game. So that is pretty cool. The game is available only on Steam, and GOG, but who really plays on there anyway? Okay, maybe some people do. But I am not done yet, as there's actually a manga based on Rivercity Ransom Underground that goes by the same name. However, it doesn't really have info on what I can find, so I think, but it may have the same plot of the same game, but who knows. If anyone has any info stating otherwise, feel free to tell me in the comments below. Although it's not the only River City manga that there is actually 3 other manga series that are worth bringing up. Kunio-Kun Neketsu Game is a manga series written and illustrated by Fujima Sharo and consists of 2 volumes. Oriwi Otoko Da Kunio-Kun is a gag manga that was illustrated by Kosaku Onokubo. This series ran from 1991 to 1996 and was serialized in a monthly anthology of Kurio comic. It came in 11 volumes, and it does center around Kunio-Kun, even though the title probably gave that away. The final manga is Neketsu Kara Kunio-Kun Kurokuma Manga Kingdom. This series was published in Japan between the year 1993 to 1994 by Futa Bushiya. It consists of 3 volumes. The reason I put all 3 of these manga together is that there's barely any info in these books. However, the first and second series wiki pages do have a link that leads to a website that is in Polish, and there should be translations for these manga books out there. The gag manga also has a little more info on another wiki page, but it's not really worth bringing up, and it's entirely in Japanese. You can use Google Translate, but I have no idea if any of it is accurate at all 100%. Before I talk about the final game, there is a TV show called Neketsu Kawa Kunio-Kun TV series. That is a live-action show in the Kunio-Kun universe. It was broadcasted on NOTTV in 2013 as 17 chapters, with each lasting 40 to 50 minutes in length. I think we can all agree that Kunio-Kun has definitely stepped itself into the realm of popular media in Japan. Now I can talk about the only Kunio-Kun game I've played, besides its sequel, Rivercitygirls. This game came out on September 5th, 2019, and one of the devs who worked on the game also did Rivercity Ransom Underground. This game is canon in the Kunio-Kun storyline, but it does not follow any of the events in the Katsukawa Kunio-Kun special, while also leaving out key elements from the previous games in the franchise. Now, I actually reviewed the game on Steam, and also made a video on this game, that video being from my A Look Into series, which is a series I don't do no more, and I'm not too happy with how the video turned out, but I guess a few people liked it, so yay, I guess. If you want my honest thoughts on Rivercitygirls, I do highly recommend the game. It does have local multiplayer, but remote play is a thing, so you can do that. Also, some of the gameplay elements in this game I will be talking about in the main review, so I won't be talking about the gameplay much on this. If you want a good beat-em-up game that is reminiscent of the old games like Double Dragon or Streets of Rage, then I can definitely say Rivercitygirls will be a treat for you to enjoy. All in all, I will say that I'm 100% confident the Kunio-Kun game franchise is very unique in what it does. I have never seen a beat-em-up franchise that is meant to be taken seriously in the first game, but go straight to a sports game, and of any sports games they choose dodgeball. That out of the way, it's now time to start the review on Rivercitygirls 2. For those that have skipped ahead to the review, welcome. Rivercitygirls 2 first came out on December 1st, 2022, with a worldwide release on December 15th of the same year. I shall now talk about the story. The story takes place right after the events of the first game, where Misako and Kyoko take out the leader of the Yakuza, Subaku. Her brother Ken, who sounds like Chaz Princeton from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, happens to be watching it and says that she should go visit Subaru in prison. There, he finds out his daughter has failed him. So then, he decides to break out of the prison and take over River City. Misako and Kyoko were running late to school, and they eventually made it to class. Although, they were kicked out due to Ken and 2 of his friends, and both Misako and Kyoko are now expelled. Although, to be quite fair though, Kyoko didn't lose anything, as she was expelled from a school she never went to. 2 months have passed, and both of them have sat at home, playing video games, at Kyoko's house, when Kyoko's mom tells them that a sequel to a new game has come out, so they both decide to go out and get it. Thanks to them not fighting, they have lost all their abilities and must gain them back. Although in River City, street fighting is legal, which would have been the perfect place for Tyler Durden to host his very own fight club. With Kazuma Kiryu nowhere to be in sight, it's up to Misako and Kyoko to take out the Yakuza and save River City. Now I can talk about the gameplay. The gameplay for Rivercitygirls 2 pretty much remains the same as the previous game, although there are a few improvements that are very nice and makes the game shine as is. You have your basic attacks like a punch, kick, and more. You can play as 4 different characters, that being Misako, Kyoko, Kunio, and Riki, with 2 more characters you can unlock, Marin and Provi, which will give you 6 characters to play as well, all with their own movesets. The city is also much bigger and there's a lot more to do in the game. You can recruit allies like in the last game, and their movesets remain the same. However, there is a new feature that the game has, that being hireable recruits you can have. You can even get Soul Bad Guy and Jam from the Guilty Gear series to be a recruit as well. I should also bring up this is the very first time that Jam has an English voice because her last title game was in Guilty Gear Xrd, where all characters except the announcer spoke in Japanese. Unless you've changed the announcer's language, because you can do that. Another nice touch is that you can now hold 2 recruits. One being a normal recruit, and the other being a horrible one you can find. This is a really nice improvement, but you do have to be careful, as if any of your recruits get hit and runs out of health, they will go away. During combat, your character will level up, and you will gain stat increases and new moves for you to use. There is also a dojo that will teach you new moves for a price as well, which can be very useful. As you level up, more moves will be unlocked in the game. Combat is very fun, and for anyone who played the first game, you'll be able to pick up the fundamentals about the game without issue. There are bosses to fight, and they are very interesting to fight when you come across them. They will have a phase where they do a special attack, and the boss is invincible while doing it, so you can't damage them. The only issue is that they are long and are kind of boring when you can't really do anything. It slows the game down a tad bit, but that's about it. Another issue I found in the game is that you can't necessarily switch characters. You can when selecting a character before you enter the game and at your base. However, you can switch characters on the fly, and you have a total of 6 characters to play as. This was something that was advertised on the game, so it would have been kind of cool if you could switch characters whenever you want. This would have also opened up the opportunity to spice up the gameplay in certain ways. Back to the positives, I should mention that the art style that Rivercitygirls has is pixelated and it looks beautiful. All the areas feel alive and colorful, and the characters that are in it give it the shine it needs. I love how the areas look and feel to them. It gives you that city-like vibe. The last thing I want to mention is the soundtrack. It's another improvement that I loved. The game reuses the same songs for some of the areas, but they are remixed and sound even better. I also never seem to skip the intro that plays due to just how good it is. That shall be all from a review on Rivercitygirls 2. I honestly don't know if this will be the last we'll ever see of the Kunio-Kun series. Who knows? We may get another dodgeball game or some collection of the past games. Although I will say that in terms of the games, the Kunio-Kun franchise definitely has an odd line of games. You never really see beat 'em up go to a dodgeball game and then branch out to other sports games. It's interesting. Although that should be it for now. I hope you liked what you saw, and that'll be it for the video here. My name is Skyknighter, and I wish you all a very nice day.